Okay. Yeah. Sonia, can you tell us something about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Sonia Deshmukh. I'm basically from Maharashtra.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, I'm living in UK. Uh, I have a huge experience in IT field, uh, but I'll try to keep it concise to my
Mm-hmm.
test. So my very recent job, which I did, was a QA tester, where I worked with a digital agency. They had multiple project, e-commerce project, some projects for educational institution, where I worked as a tester, QA analyst, and my responsibilities were to create a test plan, design test cases,
Mm-hmm.
execute test cases,
Mm-hmm.
and the testing part I worked on was functional testing, like regression testings. I did system testing. I did,
Mm-hmm.
and before that, I used to work as a developer. So my second last company, I worked as a full stack developer, where I had to work on front end, back end, and testing. So when I was working on all these areas, so I found out that testing is really what I uh, think I'm passionate about, and so I
Mm-hmm.
tried trying to switch from there to testing role. And before that, also I did a few more development job, and I had knowledge of PHP, JavaScript testing, some HTML and HTML frameworks. This is briefly about me.
Great, great. Yeah. Thank you so much for giving that introduction. Okay. So now you have 4+ years of experience in software testing, right? So let's say if you get some project in which the requirements are not given in a form of documentation, or some BRD or FRDs are not given. So how will you start testing on that project? What will be your approach?
Yes, like if I don't have a document, so
Mm-hmm.
obviously there are developers, there are product owners, there are business analysts who are working on the project, who has a
Mm-hmm.
knowledge of the project, how. So I'll have a meeting with them. I will discuss about what are the modules are, what is the flow, how they are working, and I'll try to document all those things myself and try to understand the business logic and all the modules and functionality. And accordingly, I'll try to design my test cases.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. So what you can do is you will be doing exploratory testing. You will be exploring the application, the software. You will be testing and you will be learning what is the flow of that application, what are the functionalities, what is the behavior of that software. So that's how you will do the exploratory testing. Okay. Now let's say if you are given the project of healthcare domain, you have to test an application which is having the domain of healthcare. So can you tell us some of the high level test scenarios for it?
Big question actually, and it really depends. But as we're saying, it's healthcare domain, so there
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine like
Mm-hmm.
there are doctors. There will be section for a doctors. There
Right.
will be section for patients to register, and
Mm-hmm.
there will be section for hospital management. So
Mm-hmm.
there are big sections. I'll just try to briefly explain it. So for doctor section,
Mm-hmm.
the doctor has to log into their system. Doctor
Mm-hmm.
has to see which are the patient that are like
Mm-hmm.
have a appointment with them. So they should have some dashboard kind of thing where they could
Mm-hmm.
see the patient, all the appointment, their schedule. If they can, there should be facilities to reschedule the appointments or maybe cancel in a case where they
Mm-hmm.
can't do it. So this is a doctor's side. Then there will be a patient side where patient will also log in and they can search for their particular doctor. They can search for a particular treatment, and they also can search for the appointment.
Mm-hmm.
If the appointment is cancelled or something, they should have the helplines or something where they can have a chatbot to discuss about what happened to their appointment, or is it going as it is decided. And for hospital management, there will like different clinics, different doctors, how they manage all doctors and clinics, and equipments that they need, where they purchase, and wherever are the um, vendors they have. There are a lot of things actually. It's very big
Right,
question.
right, absolutely. Yeah. So, what you can do is, let me share my screen, and you can tell about the high level test scenarios. So let's say consider as it's an healthcare domain based application, so it would have some patient registration. I think you covered that point very precisely, that users can register patients with accurate information, and then you can test for for duplicate patient records, what happening. You can test for new patient registration. You can test for existing patient registrations, and then their login scenarios, right? So that is for patient management kind of functionality. Then you have appointment scheduling. So as you covered it, they can book the appointments. They can book the appointment slots on a weekly basis, daily basis, monthly basis, right? Then you can also cover scenarios with respect to functionality of medical records. Let's say if they are uploading records or scans or x-rays or some kind of statistics of various tests that they have done on the patients, so those things should be uh, properly visible, and those data should be properly available, right? Then billing and insurance. So if anyone is getting discharged from the hospital, then based on the number of days he or she was staying at the hospital, and based on the number of based on the type of room that they had chosen, so accordingly that testing needs to be done. Then security and compliance, so means the patient data should be, you know, precise. It should not be revealed to anyone else. You need to test about the encryption and decryption of the patient data. If they have some diseases, then it should be secured, right? It should not be open for everyone, right? So those kind of scenarios you can test. And then you have a mobile application testing. What if that particular application you are opening in the mobile phone, and then you are testing the various functionalities whether they are working fine. Then any notifications or any kind of reminders, let's say if you have an appointment, if we have an appointment on Monday, and then you get some message in the Monday morning that okay, we have appointment, a kind of a notification, reminder notification, right? Messaging related services, those you can test. The user friendliness of the mobile application, that you can test, right? So these are the various test scenarios that you can cover with respect to healthcare domain application. Okay, so this is good now. Okay, which is the test case management tool that you are aware about?
I'm aware about Jira.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell us how do you create the test cases in Jira?
So in Jira, there is an option to create a bug.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, we can write the ID. We can
Mm-hmm.
give the description, test case description, and then we can write the steps to reproduce the uh, bug, and then we can give it the priorities, severities, whether it's high, low. Then we can assign it to whoever we want to assign,
Mm-hmm.
and we can attach the file as well, just to see a screenshot how that bug is, where it exactly appeared.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we do it.
Right, right. So that is about the bug. So you will create a bug in Jira, and you will be mentioning the various things. For example, as you are telling, the steps to reproduce, screenshots, expected result, actual result, and in which version the bug needs to be fixed, that is in the sprint, in the current sprint, or in the future sprint, or it needs to be moved to the backlog, right? If you want to create test cases in Jira, then also you have those kind of options. So let's say you have test scenarios field, and then you have test data field, you have test steps field, in which you'll be mentioning about the test steps, you'll be mentioning about the test data for each and every test step, right? And then you
So
would,
it's in the bug only, right? Like
no, no, it's a
create a
separate
bug.
thing. Yeah, it's a separate thing. So test case is separate, bug is different.
What is it called? Like from where
Test,
you get.
yeah. So in Jira itself, you can add the test cases from two places. Either you can navigate to the test cases tool, or whichever integration they have done, you can navigate to it and you can create a new test case. Or if there is any user story written in Jira, so you will have an option below in that you can add the test cases and you can link it to that particular user story itself, right? It would be automatically linked because you have opened it from the user story, right? So that's how you can explain in writing of test cases in Jira. Okay, and
You
then
said
again you
there
can.
will be integrated tool. What integrated tools are there?
Okay, so in Jira, there are various test case management tools. Again, we have, for example, we have X-Ray, then we have Zephyr. In Zephyr, you can write the test cases, and it's again a plugin that would be integrated in Jira, right? X-Ray is also one kind of a plugin that would be integrated in Jira, right? So you can use this kind of plugins to write the test cases, and it depends on organization to organization which plugin or which tools they are integrating with Jira.
Can we like get it from Git repository or something, like fetch from, if they have any repository in a Git they have created, and just page from there. Can this work there?
So you want to get it from Git. So test cases you want to get it from Git, right?
We have like written in
Mm.
some Git files and
Okay.
it.
Yeah, so it might happen if the test cases are written in an Excel file, right? And then you upload them in the Git with version 1. Let's say if any enhancement or any updations in the features are coming, you again update those test cases, you update them and you push them with version 2, right? So that's how you can segregate the different test cases and their versions in the Git repository. Right?
Thank you.
So that's how also, but generally Git has been used for storing the automation coding, the code that you have written for Selenium automation scripts or test automation. You would be using Git there,
Good to know.
right? Okay. Okay, now let's say if let me open one website. Now this is Amazon.com. In Amazon.com, you will have various functionalities of searching a product, login, registration of a new account, payments, then email notifications. All these things are available in Amazon website. Now you are supposed to come up with a test plan for this particular website.
So you just want me to give a test plan, not the
Yeah,
test cases.
yeah, not test cases or test scenarios, just test plan. How will
Okay.
how will you test this website?
Okay. So
Yeah.
test plan, I
Mhm.
have to see how many modules are there, how many sub modules are there,
Right,
and
right.
what is the complexity of those modules. So accordingly, I could judge about the effort estimation, how much effort it will take. Uh, so in my estimation, I'll see what is my scope and my strategy and my entry point, my exit points, uh,
Mhm.
the human resources that I need,
Okay.
environment that we are using, and how much time it will take for these modules.
Mhm.
Uh,
Right, right. So these all things you will include. Okay. So now let me tell you. Hmm. Okay. So if you are getting this question in a real-time interview on what is the test plan or come up with a test plan for Amazon website, then you can explain in these particular lines. So first of all is in objective. So what is the objective of the test plan? It is to ensure that we will cover all the functionalities of the Amazon website, from registration to account management to search, checkout process, all these things, right? And we'll be performing various testing levels such as functional testing. We would perform compatibility, security, performance, usability. All these things will be performing. Now, next is test items, right? So what we would be testing, what we would be doing testing is of Amazon website. If it has not been given that you have to test in mobile, in Android or iOS phone, then you will continue testing on website only, right? If it has been explicitly mentioned that you need to cover mobile, then here in the test items will mention testing required on mobile devices as well. Then features to be tested, which you are mentioning, like user registration and login, then test login functionality, then forgot password, remember me feature, then product search and browsing, then the search functionality, then testing the product filtering and sorting options, then validating the product details and their reviews, the shopping cart options, the checkout options. All these things will be coming up as a part of features to be tested. Then validate the checkout process, right? The account management, the confirmation, the offers, the payment is getting deducted as per offers at present. So let's say right now when we were going through that website, we were able to see Women's Day, right? So maybe some of offers are going on, so that you can explain. Then testing the website's responsiveness. So here now we are coming to the performance testing, right? So as it's an e-commerce website, so non-functional testing is also very important. So how much load the website can withstand at that particular time, right? So we'll be evaluating the page load, we'll be conducting stress testing, we'll be seeing how many users are able to use the website at that particular time slot, right? Then security testing we would perform, right? Then as a part of test deliverables, what you are going to give is you are going to provide test cases, test data for all the scenarios, test logs and defect reports, right? This is important. Then testing schedule. So we will be defining testing milestones and we'll be allocating time for each testing phase. For example, writing test cases would be done from 1st March to 15th March. Then test data creation would be done from 15th March to 20th March. Then testing in QA environment would be done from this particular date to that. Then testing in staging environment, testing in prod, smoke testing, regression testing, all those things, schedules we will allocate in this. Then testing environment. So you'll be specifying the browsers, devices, operating systems that we will be using for testing. Entry and exit criteria, you covered this point, right? So defining conditions. So when will you give the sign off, right, for that product? Then testing team roles and responsibilities. So identifying how many members, how many human resources that you mentioned are required. Then one more level of identification. Do we require manual testers only, or do we require automation testers? If yes, then how many automation testers? Risk and mitigation, approvals if any required, and conclusion, right? So that's how you will come up with a test plan for Amazon website.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, great. Now, let me share my screen. Okay, so this is a scenario-based question that we will now focus. So let's say you received one build in which you had to test the user story. Okay, you had 2 user stories to be tested and you have a timeline of, let's say, 1.5 week. Okay, so let's say 8 days you have timeline. Okay, now while testing these 2 user stories, which are actually planned in the current sprint, you are getting the bugs from the previous user story that has already been signed off by you,
Mhm.
right? So this was signed off in the last sprint. Let's say you are working in the current sprint number is, for example, 5. And you are also getting the bugs from the user story, which was signed off in sprint 4. Right. So now how will you plan your work? Because you need to complete these 2 user stories in 8 days as per sprint planning commitment. Now you are getting bugs from this user story also. So actually you are testing integration scenarios between these 2 user stories, and that's where you started getting the bugs. So what would you do? What would be your approach? Would you prioritize, or would you continue working on this, or would you tackle this
Mhm.
first? Yeah.
Yeah. So there is an interaction between these two models. And if
Hmm.
there is an error in previous model, if it is not corrected, it will have an effect on the next model as well. So it is, I think it will be a again priority to go back and correct that one, because if they are interrelated, like there is an integration between those two modules, the
Mm.
previous module has to be corrected. Otherwise, if I just go ahead with the next one and previous one is not corrected, and I'll after I'm done with my current sprint and the previous one is still pending, and then later I go back to it and correct it, it might have effect on whatever done now. So
Correct.
so it will go waste. So if that bug has a high priority, it is affecting the business, I need to check that first. Once that and I could discuss this with my team, because I have a deadline of 8 days. I have to finish this as well. But if that bug is there, there is a need for a meeting there. I will schedule a meeting and discuss about the priority of previous bug, whether it's really needed to be corrected right now, and then go ahead with my next current build. So looking at it, I see it if it is a integration testing, it will have effect. So I will correct that one first, and then I'll start off with my current one. It might stretch a little more because I have spent some time on my previous area. So instead of 8 days, it might take me a few more days. But that's my approach to deal with it.
Correct, correct. So what it's a correct approach, what you have mentioned. So you would be having a word with your leads and managers and with the development team that you are finding now these kind of scenarios, which you have actually signed off the user story in the previous sprint. So you need to get them fixed so as to complete the testing for this user story, right? So you will help them with the scenarios, you will create those defects, you will keep them at a very high priority, right? High priority, high severity, so that those are fixed as soon as possible. And then you are able to complete the current user story also. Okay. Now let's say you have two user stories and you, instead of 8 days, so you gave the commitment for 8 days, but now you have only 3 days. So how will you plan your work in such a way that you are able to complete the testing in 3 days itself?
So it looks like uh, I need to first have my risk-based approach, or I have to find out the most critical aspect of this module. So I try with I prioritize my work accordingly. Which are the model with higher risk to the business, which has higher priority. I'll start off with them so that at least basics and critical functionalities are covered. I have a stable build which is workable, and if time permits me, I will go ahead with next test cases. Those are needed. Yeah, I'll work according to the priority and risk base.
Absolutely correct answer, right? So first of all, you would be designing test cases. Now in those test cases, let's say you have created 30 test cases and you have identified 10 to 12 test cases which are of top priority, right? So those things you would be testing first because you have only 3 days. And then when you have a client discussion or when you have a business sign off meeting, over there you can highlight that due to less number of days, and if they know the reason, right, then you can highlight there that due to less number of days you are able to test only these many scenarios. You'll continue testing, but the story is signed off, and you'll keep them updated if you get any bugs, right? So that's a good approach. Okay, now let's say you are okay. Okay, now let's take the scenario. Let's say you were working on a software project, which uh, in that project you were working for almost 6 months. Okay, you have a clarity of everything, test case writing, test case execution, all those things. Now you are moved to a different project. Okay, and now there is a new team member who is hired, and you need to provide the KT to this member for this project, for the project A in which you are earlier working. Now you are moved to project B. Okay. So how will you provide the KT? Which are the different action items that you will take care in providing at the time of providing KT to the new team member?
My first approach would be I would make him understand what exactly the project is. what is the objective of that project, what is the business logic behind that application, so that he understand what is required out of this application. Then there will be documentation like test matrix documentation. There will be some report documents, and there will be test cases written according to the modules. So I try to explain him the basic critical modules. Like these are it depends. If the project is big, it may have 6 modules, it may have n number of modules. So I'll start with again the most important modules. I try to explain him what are the scenarios, high level scenarios. I would try to explain him so that he knows what a particular module does, and then there will be interaction or integration between the module, how the data flows from this module to other module, what is the correlation between them. I try to explain him about that so that he knows how they are interlinked, and so overall he can have a view of that, how the system works, how it is interrelated, and how it flows the data.
Right. So you will give him an understanding of the overall application, the product knowledge, and then you can ask him to go through the test cases, test scenarios that you have already documented. He can also go through the bugs or the defects that were found internally by the QA team, or those were found by the client during their UAT testing, and he will get a fair idea of what kind of defects they have been getting and what are the important use cases from the client perspective, right? So he'll get a fair idea on that. So that's thing. And the new project, you will be moved to the different project. Okay, fine. Yeah, so this is good. Okay. So Sonia, do you prepare any kind of reports, like weekly status report or daily status reports? Are you aware about those kind of reports?
Weekly, can you repeat which reports?
Yeah. Any kind of weekly status reports or daily status reports. Do you document them? Do you create those documents?
Sorry, I haven't.
Okay, no worries. So it depends from various companies to companies. So generally what happens is the senior QA members or the leads, they will prepare daily status reports, like what is the progress on user stories testing. For example, they have completed 30% testing today, 40% testing, which are the P0 or P1 bugs that they have found, which are the regression bugs that they have found on the at the end of the regression automation suite that they had triggered. Then if you have performed any non-functional testing, so what is the result of that, or what is the update on any kind of testing that has been happening in your project. So those kind of weekly status reports are being created by the senior QA members. And as you are a senior QA member, then you have to also prepare report in which you can include the statistics or data from the junior team members as well, right? So everyone will not be preparing those kind of reports. Only senior team members will be taking care of those things.
I'm not
It's a kind of a reporting to.
Maybe I'm not a senior QA member.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm a QA member.
Okay. So if you are a QA, then at the end of the day, you might be sending an email update to your leads or managers that this is the status update with respect to the testing that you have done today, right? With respect to the user stories, those were assigned, or any testing task that you have completed, right? So that's how you can tell. Okay, Sonia, I am done with the interview. Do you have any questions for me?
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Like, first is I would like to have a feedback upon how I did.
Yeah.
What are the improvements that I need?
Mm-hmm.
Ask the next question.
Okay. Right.